The parable of the Good Samaritan is interpreted as follows. A man, desiring to justify himself, asks Jesus who is his neighbor. Jesus tells a story about a man who is robbed while traveling and about the three men who pass his way after the crime. Ignored by the priest and the Levite, the man is eventually helped by a Samaritan, that is, people hated by the Jews. However, we ought to show God's love especially to people we don't like. Once upon a time, there was a man named Aaron. He was a church-going man and had believed in God since he was a little boy. In fact, he had begun to think of himself as pretty righteous. Aaron followed the law as best as he could, and he avoided the things he thought were big sins. One day, Jesus came to Aaron's town. Jesus had been preaching about the kingdom of heaven, and Aaron was very interested because Jesus was known to be a famous teacher. If there was anything that Aaron needed to do to get into heaven, he wanted to know it. So he listened very closely, and when he got a chance, he spoke up to ask Jesus about the most important commandment.
So, good teacher, out of all the commandments in the law, which one is the most important?
The greatest commandment is this: you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. And let me tell you the second most important one: you shall love your neighbor as much as you love yourself.
Now, Aaron liked to feel good about himself, and he was used to doing pretty much the minimum he needed to satisfy God. This command about loving his neighbor seemed a little vague, and Aaron wanted to nail down exactly who it was he had to love. Did Jesus mean the neighbor on both sides of the house, or even the neighbor behind his house? What about the diagonal neighbors? Did those count? So Aaron spoke up.
Jesus. So, who exactly is my neighbor?
Let me have this nice narrator tell you a story.
Once upon a time, there was a man who decided to go to the nearby town of Jericho. Unfortunately for the man, there were robbers along the road.
Oh, look! I can see a rich man coming down this way. Ha 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 ha.
Yes, let's rob him of his money and his belongings.
When he came to where they were, the robbers jumped out, beat him up, and took all his stuff.
Help! Help!
The robbers even took some of his clothes. They beat him so badly that he was left senseless on the road. Not much later, a priest came along the road.
Oh dear, looks like the robbers have attacked this poor man. I wonder if he's dead. If he's dead and I touch him, I'll be unclean for the rest of the day. And I won't be able to do my work in the temple of God. Besides, if I stop for him, maybe the robbers will come back for me. I'd better leave him for someone else to worry about.
And so the priest crossed to the other side of the road and left the poor man unconscious on the road. A little while later, another woman came down the road, this one a Levite.
Oh, looks like robbers have been here. That poor guy. Someone should help him. Or maybe he is dead? Well, he isn't really my responsibility. I have a lot to do today. I'll leave him for someone else to take care of.
And so the Levite crossed to the other side of the road and left the man without any help. Eventually, a Samaritan came along.
Oh no, what has happened to you, my friend? Are you okay? No, of course you are not okay. You have been pretty badly wounded. Here, let me get you a drink.
Concerned for the man, the Samaritan bandaged his wounds and rescued him from the road. He put the man on his own animal and brought him to the next hotel along the road.
Welcome to Jericho Palms Inn. How may I help you?
I found this poor fellow along the road. Looks like robbers have hurt him. I'd like to get a room for him.
This isn't a hospital, you know. I run a hotel and I expect to be paid.
Of course, I'll spend the night here and look after him myself. In the morning, we'll see how he's doing.
Oh, very well. I'll get you a room in the ground floor. Room number 4.
Bring me some water and bandages to clean this poor man's wounds.
Here is the bandages and water you asked for.
That night, the Samaritan took care of the hurt man, washed and rebandaged his wounds. The next morning, the hurt man was not able to travel, but the Samaritan needed to go.
Look, I have business down the road. I can't stay and look after this man.
Well, he isn't my problem. You bought him here. You should take him with you.
Tell you what, I'll pay you to look after him. Here's enough money to take care for him several days. I'll be back this way when I come back from my trip. If it takes more than that to get him back on his feet, I'll pay it when I come back.
Oh, very well. I don't know why you're taking so much trouble for a stranger. Isn't he a Jew? And aren't you a Samaritan? Don't they hate your people?
Well, yes, that may be true, but he was in need, and I couldn't just walk past and leave him. Now, could I? Tomorrow, he may despise me, but today he needed me. I'll be back in a few days. You take good care of him.
So, which of these was a neighbor to the poor man who was beaten? Was it the priest, or the Levite, or the Samaritan?
I guess it was the guy who helped him.
Yes, you have got it. That is what it means to love your neighbor as yourself.
And so, Aaron learned an important lesson that day. When the Bible talks about loving your neighbor as yourself, it doesn't mean that we only have to love the people who live right next door, but it means that we have to love whoever God puts in our life each day, and we love them the way that we would want to be loved ourselves.
Love your neighbor as yourself. Love your neighbor as yourself. Do this and you will truly live. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love your neighbor as yourself.